Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday. Before we dive in, make sure you remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Alex Romo, a professional golfer, former D1 athlete, and he has his own YouTube golfing channel. This is my first year playing golf, so I am pumped to learn from someone who's played at the highest level. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, now, Alex, for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can
hmm
you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Yep. My background was competitive golf, played in college, played 8 years on the mini tours. So just running all over the world, playing on various like semi-pro golf tours, trying to eventually get to the PGA Tour. Didn't really work out yet. Not saying never, but for the time being, kind of put a pause on the competitive golf dreams and really turned the dial up on social media, content creation, working with various brand partners and building my own personal brand, getting to a point where I think in the future I'll be able to sell my own products and services, courses, coaching, mentorship, and potentially, some bigger projects than myself, maybe creating a golf tour of some sort, or obviously there's a lot of physical products in the golf world as well. So at this point, my day to day is just hammering out content nonstop. As you mentioned, have a YouTube channel. So I've been doing a lot of long form stuff this year, playing in various, you know, influencer tournaments, little celebrity tournaments, different kind of like networking, fun golf tournaments that aren't quite so focused on the competitive aspect as they are the fun and the content aspect. And so, yeah, kind of just adapting and not completely, turning my back on golf and the life that I've been building for a couple decades, but just sort of morphing into a different lane and trying to be smart about the current ecosystem we're living in and where the best opportunities are to earn a living for yourself. And I think right now it's much more in the content world than it is in the mini tour pro golf world. So kind of made that shift in the last year or two.
You have great content, and Alex, it's always fascinating for me the
Thank
why
you.
behind someone's passion. I mean, how did your love for golf start?
Yeah, very, very early in life. I started playing when I was 5. And wouldn't say I got super serious about it until age 13. My family had the idea to take a trip to Scotland, which was the home of golf. And it was going to be an expensive trip. We had to save up money for it. And so that was kind of a multi-year process. And I also had a caveat of needing to be a 24 handicap to get a tee time at the old course, which is the original golf course, that the very first one ever built that we know of in the history books back in St. Andrews, 600 some years ago. They have a rule that you have to be a 24 handicap to play there. And I was not. I was like a 45 handicap when I was 13 when we started saving for this trip. So I really was motivated to just improve enough so that we could go on this trip as a family and play St. Andrews. And that kind of made me, I got a coach. I started to play high school golf and competitive golf over the summers. And by the time we took that trip when I was 16, I was, I think, maybe a 4 handicap, and just kept getting better, played in college, and then, continued from there. But it originally started, I think that the number one thing I could look at would be that trip to St. Andrews that got me really motivated and excited to improve at the game.
No, that's so fascinating because, like, I'm starting the game right now at 27, and there's always something to improve on, always something to learn, and it's such a beautiful game overall.
It is, man. I'm envious of you. It sounds so fun to start over as a beginner. I have a lot of friends in the content world and athletes from other sports that are also kind of just starting their golf arc in the last, 1 to 2 years. And they're nuts, man. It's like they're more obsessed with the game and practice way more than I do, because it's just that it's a very infatuating sport. There's so many facets to it. And especially in the beginning, the improvement can be pretty rapid when you go from just like literally shanking the ball on the range, and then you learn how to get it airborne, and then you learn how to make some putts, and all of a sudden you can shoot under 100. And at first you're having to pick up on every hole because you just kept losing too many golf balls like that. That it's kind of like the gym too. You can make a lot of progress in your first couple of months in the gym if you never trained before. And it's just a very infatuating thing. The feedback loop of work to reward is really crisp in the beginning. And then as you get years and years down the line and get closer and closer to scratch, there's obviously much more minimal improvements you can make. So the excitement in practicing to get a reward for it, I think it can damper over the years, but those beginning years are really special and pure. So I can remember, it's been a long time for me, but I definitely remember what that felt like. So that's awesome for you and a lot of my buddies that are on that wave right now.
Yeah, Alex, you basically described me, trying to shoot under 100, losing a lot of balls, always buying more balls. I mean, it's constantly just like, I find, it's just so fascinating, just the game itself. I mean, there's so many things so many levels to it. You don't know if you're going to be good at putting today or not, or you're going to be good at your driver today or not. It's just like always something. Like I was saying, this is my first year playing golf. What's the number one thing you think a beginner golfer like me should focus on first?
Wow. I think like learning to hit the center of the club face, is pretty pivotal for anyone to be able to give you either swing advice or club fitting advice. What type of shafts you should play, what stiffness, what should your lie angle be. All that stuff is kind of arbitrary if you're not consistently hitting close to the center of the club face. And I don't think anyone really thinks about that in the beginning, or necessarily even knows, what that feels like. But one of the best ways you can determine that is taking Dr. Scholl's foot spray on the club face, and that will create like a white residue there. And then when you hit a golf ball, it leaves an imprint mark exactly where on the face you hit it. You can see if it's high or low, or heel and toe. And, hitting a bucket of balls in the range with that Dr. Scholl spray thing every 10 or 15 balls can be very telling on what your tendencies are. Maybe you're hitting it, too close to the toe. And a lot of times you don't have an accurate perception of where the center of the club face really is. I think a lot of guys, chunk shots and it feels pure to them, but that ball is too high on the club face. If you were to Google like where a real tour strike is, it's going to be much lower than the average beginner, or even even myself as a pro. When I went in and started having club fitters help me, they were like, yeah, you think a pure strike is you chunking the ball. Like your perception of pure is like two grooves high on the club face of where it should be. And that means that even when you're flushing it, you think you're flushing it, you're getting a ton of grass in between the club face and the ball, which is messing up, the spin rates. It's taking spin off the golf ball, and it's basically harder to control. With less backspin, it's going to sail through the air further. And as a beginner, that might sound really exciting, but the better you get, the more that's problematic, because you do backspin to control the distance and get the ball to land at a pretty vertical angle softly on the greens. So I know that was a bunch of technical jargon, but basically as a beginner, I think it's important to just practice hitting the center of the club face, because until you can consistently do that, it doesn't really matter how much swing advice you get from a coach. It doesn't really matter how much club fitting advice you get from someone trying to tell you what clubs you should be playing. If you're not consistently hitting the club face in the center most of the time, your shot dispersion pattern is going to be all over the place, no matter what kind of swing you put on it or what club is in your hand. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the basics can make a big difference early on in the golf, league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And um, probably not getting super hung up on like lessons right away, and getting stuck thinking about your swing. Like, unless you're truly going to be a professional golfer, and the mechanics really, really matter. I think most people are going to have a natural way that they grip the club, and their posture and alignment and stance, and whether their head comes off the ball a little bit or if it stays completely down. Like there's going to be a natural sequence that your body takes when you give someone a golf club. And without, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice, and like deliberate focused practice where you're checking on a camera in between shots, whether or not you're doing the move that you're trying to rehearse with your wrist or this or that. Without that level of practice, it's going to be very unlikely that your body really adapts to some abnormal movement pattern, something different than what it naturally wants to do. And so I think you would be better off just grooving your own swing. And there's all sorts of tweaks you can make just with your setup and posture and alignment and grip and the clubs that your club builder fits you into. All of those things can accommodate for all sorts of, quote unquote, non-optimal swing moves, and can allow someone to play much better golf for what their natural swing gives them without being stuck in their head all the time thinking like, well, my coach tells me that I need to like lay it off more in the backswing. So instead of being on the golf course, trusting their swing and being able to actually focus on the target that they're intending to hit the shot to, they spend all their time thinking about the move they need to make in the top of their backswing. And again, at the highest level, yeah, technique is important, but for the majority of golfers, they're just kind of making it harder on themselves and reducing how much they can enjoy the game by getting a little too hung up, especially in the beginning with lessons, I think.
Yeah,
But
practice
that's
makes
highly
perfect.
debated. There's a lot of
That's
people
what I
that,
like to say. I mean, because at the end of the day, you have to put in the reps in the 10,000
yeah,
hour rule. I mean, you really got to put in the hours to be good at anything. Now, what's
it's
one of the
very true.
golf drills you think that could really help me like improve my golf swing quick?
Hmm. Well, I think understanding your start line tendencies is really important. And in order to practice that, you would take an aim stick and put it like a yard in front of your golf ball and point it at the intended target. So it's not an aim stick that's going on your foot line. This is an aim stick that if you were to stand behind your golf ball and look down the driving range at a flag you're trying to hit to, you would put the aim stick in between the golf ball and the flag to the best of your ability, pointed straight at it, and hitting shots, attempting to square the club face to that aim stick and just seeing how good you are at actually starting the golf ball on your intended line. I think that's important because like not having aim sticks or just putting one on your foot line on the driving range when you're hitting golf balls isn't going to give you quite as accurate of practice on club face at impact is the most important thing. Your feet can be pointed right. They can be pointed left. The ball position can be forward. It can be back. There's so much variability in how players address the golf ball, and none of it really matters. What matters is where that club face delivers to the golf ball at impact, and if it's pointed straight, left, or right. And so this is the best way I know to practice would be putting that aim stick down and trying to send the golf ball right over it and trying to square the club face directly to that at address every time.
Alex, how often are you golfing?
Boy, this year it started out slow. So the last competitive tournament I played was May of 2024. Tried to qualify for, went through a Q school process for something called PGA Tour Americas. Did not advance through that and get my card, and then just stopped playing for the remaining 6 months of last year. At the beginning of this year, decided to try and do the content full time, but not as a competitive golfer documenting my journey in that realm anymore, which is what I did for years. My content used to just be all about me playing pro golf tournaments and the preparation for it and all that. But this year I started making more educational content at the start of the year, talking about things like the cost of pro golf and the difficulty of advancing from one tour to the next, and just the overall landscape of mini tour and then, big tour pro golf. But that didn't really require me to be playing golf. It was kind of more just leaning on my experience and knowledge from being in that world most of my life. And then in the last couple months, I've kind of blended my content from that into also a lot of matches, kind of the traditional like YouTube golfer stuff where it's a 1v1 or, a couple guys playing a scramble together, trying to shoot as low as possible and just more fun stuff. There's some education in there, but it's not necessarily my intention. Those are more so just, bringing entertaining figures and athletes and other influencers and stuff into videos with me. And that has been getting me out to play a lot more golf. And I've been getting invited to a lot of different, little micro celebrity tournaments or networking events and things that, I want to do well. There's definitely an expectation as a former pro golfer that I should be competitive in these tournaments. And so I think having, last year off and kind of the beginning of this year off, I was starting to feel like a really subpar golfer and not liking, showing that on camera. I wanted to get better. So I'm not practicing. I don't ever like go to the range and hit a bucket of balls or do a putting drill or anything like that. It's just kind of hard to justify spending my time doing that when it's no longer, me earning an income is not tied to, how great at golf I am. It's more so tied to my content output and internet business stuff. So basically, it doesn't really make sense for me in practice, but I am playing a lot more rounds of golf. So sometimes, up to 4 rounds in a week, probably at least, once a week, maybe average 2 to 3 times a week lately. So yeah, it's my game's rusty, but it's getting better the last couple months, which has been fun.
There's different levels to becoming a professional golfer. I mean, what was golfing like for you in college being a D1 athlete?
Yeah, there definitely are different levels. Division one obviously is the highest level of collegiate golf, and there's D2, D3, NAIA, junior college. So there's about 5 tiers, and it's not like there aren't great players at every level, but as a general rule of thumb, there are a higher volume of really top tier players at the D1 level. Those are the bigger schools that have the budgets to, actually recruit and give scholarships to guys. And so I didn't play at, a national championship contending D1 program. I played for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which was, I would say, upper third. They were in the top 1/3 of D1 programs. So definitely competitive, but not necessarily sending guys from our team, straight to the PGA Tour after college or anything like that, which you do see out of some of the real blue chip programs like Oklahoma and Texas and stuff like that, Alabama. But definitely good. Definitely, a full team of 10 or 12 guys that were, at least scratch golfers, if not better. And it was, I had to walk onto that team. I was not recruited out of high school. I had a nice high school career, but just for a very small private Catholic high school in Southern California called Villanova. So even though I was an individual conference champion and won different tournaments and stuff in high school, that didn't rank on a national Division I, college coach recruiting scale. And so I, should definitely not have gone to a D1 school. That was totally just me being really stubborn and having like delusional self-confidence that I could do something that to outsiders would make no sense at all. But I freaking did it. So I'm glad that I did. It took me 3 years, wasn't a very smooth process. You had to play in tryouts every single year before school started, and they would give out maybe one spot to a new kid every year that was trying to walk on out of a group of maybe 30 guys. So very competitive, and you had to qualify over the summer by shooting, a certain level of scores in some amateur tournaments and stuff like that. So that was always my focus throughout the summer, was to play a bunch of tournaments and get ready for tryouts in the fall. And freshman year, I did not make it. Sophomore year, I did not make it. Junior year, I was added to the practice roster, sort of as like the last guy that didn't make it. And then halfway through junior season, got a call up to the main team, and then played the into my junior year, senior year, and then a 5th year as well. Not really in school anymore at that point, just writing out my eligibility and trying to sharpen the toolkit. Because at that point, I was starting to get, confident enough to think that it made sense to not get a normal job out of college. I was studying marketing and business, and could obviously have, gone to career fairs and done internships and stuff like that. But I think once I made the team and stayed on the team, it seemed like I was going to be pursuing pro golf after college, and I took it really serious, and I, definitely steadily improved each year. I'd say I was, always a late bloomer, like a little bit behind the curve of where you needed to be one of the best guys for where you were at, high school, college, mini tour, pro level. I always was just a couple years behind catching up to some of the best guys. But yeah, it was very competitive, man. And I got to play against a lot of players that are current PGA Tour players now. And so obviously it was, not far off in the same tournaments, competing against guys that have gone on to, make millions of dollars as competitive pro golfers. And so definitely something I'm super proud of. And that was a fun era in my life. That was a huge accomplishment to be a D1 golfer.
Sure. Oh, for sure it is. I mean, for most people don't even realize what it takes to be a golfer, and then to be a D1 athlete is so impressive. I'm really fascinated in golf, and I mean, how do you prepare for a golf tournament?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. There's varying levels of seriousness that guys approach the game with. You know, it's changed over the years. I used to be much more practice heavy and spend time on the actual practice area doing putting, chipping drills, working on my swing on the range, filming my swing, stuff like that. In my later years, I pretty much just played rounds. Wasn't a whole lot of, practice range time other than just to warm up your body to go on the course and then play. Because I think over the years, I realized for me at least, I didn't seem to get a whole lot of ROI for spending hours on the range trying to work on my swing. I seemed to be better if I just kind of forgot about my technique, even if it was, not a totally optimal swing and there was, areas where I was losing power or areas that were more timing based in my swing. So I was going to be prone to, you know, greater variability in my dispersion pattern and stuff like that. I think I realized that I got more out of my game by just playing rounds. So I usually prepped for tournaments by just getting that, multiple practice rounds in at the location if possible. And just trying to play pretty much every day leading up to a tournament. And then obviously a whole lot of stuff off the course, which I always enjoyed working on. Big fitness guy, always training and working out and lifting weights. And then pretty big into stretching and mobility. And, I was kind of a nerd for nutrition and supplements and food and stuff like that for quite a while. And then, in the later years got very obsessed with the spiritual world and things like meditation and breath work and things to kind of sharpen your mental toolkit. And, I actually, when I was playing my best, I would write out like pretty lengthy, like multiple pages of notes to myself for the tournament. And some of it would be like phrases from books, like stoicism books or, mental game books, just like little catchphrases and mantras and things that I wanted to keep in mind. And I would write down little drills that I had. I would have like uppers and downers, things that would like, if it's basically being successful at golf, like once you're good and you've already been playing competitively for years, there's not that much difference between the guys. Like they're like, if you play Division I college golf, you have a chance to at least be successful at the mini tour level. I would say there's nothing like inherently wrong with your swing or your putting stroke or some gaping hole in your golf game where it's like, nope, this guy's not going to be able to compete. You're obviously showing the ability to shoot in the 60s consistently. That's good enough to succeed at the mini tour level. So really what it comes down to is getting the most out of your game. And that comes down to being super good at regulating yourself, managing your own nervous system, because usually you don't get a caddy until you're at the highest level and can afford to have one with you at all times. And that's obviously the role of a caddy among, other things. Of course, they get you yardages and stuff like that. But really, I think for most guys, they mostly are relying on the caddy to sort of be like a nervous system regulator, a friend when you need a friend, a pep talk when you need a pep talk, someone to walk you off the ledge when you're too angry, just kind of helping you see things more clearly when it can get very emotional and your heart rate can get jacked up when you're in the middle of chaotic situations out there. But at the level I played at, which was still not, having a caddy very often, you're in charge of, you're your own coach out there. And so in this, notepad that I would write to myself before tournaments, sometimes I would do things like, jumping jacks or like running high knees in place, or like if I was starting to just really clock out from the round, like I made 4 bogeys in a row or something and just totally deflated and got the, wind knocked out of me. And I could just feel, the head drop, the shoulders drop, the bounce in your step is gone. The sharpness and the pop with your movements kind of just starting to flatline. Something to just get your heart rate up and get out of your head and into your body could be very effective. It could just be something as simple as, 30-second little sprint or some push-ups or whatever that just gets you huffing and puffing for a second and kind of brings that energy back up. And then on the flip side, if you're playing well or in the beginning of a tournament, feeling a lot of nerves or pressure and your heart rate is pounding much faster than you want it to be, slow breathing, box breathing, where it's like 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold was the thing I would do. Or sometimes I would stand in the fairway with my eyes closed in between shots, waiting for competitors to hit, trying to, feel all the senses. What can you hear? what can you feel in terms of sun, wind, temperature, clothes blowing on your skin, like all the sensations in the body, sight, sound, touch, um, smell, taste, I guess. That's another good way to, you know, ground yourself by going into the body and out of the mind. So I would just have, it would vary from tournament to tournament, but I would have inevitably something that I was reading in a book that week or heard on a podcast or had a conversation with a friend about. There'd be something that I was kind of geeking out on at any given point in time going into tournament. And I would just write these things down. And then I would also write down whatever a feel was I was working that at that point in time for each part of the game. Putting feel, like, oh, keep the weight on your toes this week. And then chipping, like, oh, let's make sure we're leaning left on the strike. And then driver, let's set the club face open a little bit to protect against the left. So it'd just be, a variety of things I was trying to ping myself at. Because 5 hours out there is like, that's a lot of time to get totally thrown off your game plan and just get stuck in the moment. Whatever your playing partner, there might be something annoying about your playing partner, or the weather might be really bad, or the course might be, super difficult, or one that you've never played before. And you can just get so lost in the sauce and completely forget the things that are like actually going to help you get the most out of your game physically and mentally. And so that was a big part of when I really was playing my best. I was pretty consistent with writing myself like pre-game notes that I would keep in my yardage book and try to just read in between shots out there.
Golf is so mental, and with that being said, I mean, what's your approach when you're approaching the first tee in a big tournament?
Boy, yeah, it varied. There were there were times where I tried to like amp myself up and pretend that it was like a different sport, like football or basketball, or a little more of like an alpha sport where we were trying to come into it with aggression and energy and step on everyone's throats in the field. And then there would, it, I feel like the best have that attitude. Like they do have like almost a God complex about themselves of just being so much better than everybody there, and not even knowing why the other guys are there to play a tournament against them, because they're just obviously so much better. Like golfers are almost unanimously extremely nice guys and very polite and respectful. So you're not going to hear them say this. Certainly not the top tier guys in the world that have sponsorships and things like that. But having known enough of them personally, and the best ones, that's how they all feel. And so I knew that that was something I lacked that my peers who were getting better results than me had. It was basically just a killer instinct, or like a very cocky demeanor and a high level of self-confidence. So there were tournaments that I tried to go in with that, but it just always felt a little disingenuous for me, and was hard for me to, I guess, believe it. I think it didn't really jive with my mental framework of myself. So I felt kind of out of alignment. And I think it just led to this spiral of, you know, self-identity crisis out there. And so I got probably better results just being my normal self, which is just kind of like a laid back, friendly guy, like actually, smiling and dapping up my competitors. Cause there's some guys who wouldn't. Some guys, they may be nice guys, but in tournaments, like they're not your friend. They don't talk in the tournaments. They don't say what up to you on the range or the parking lot. They're like clearly in aggressor war mode, and they're trying to beat everybody. I had, didn't have success that way. I had a little more success kind of being my normal self, which was just assuming that everyone is my friend, assuming that everybody, likes me and wants the best for me, which of course may not be true, but just living in that sort of delusion of being like an eternal optimist and kind of in more of a happy, peaceful state seemed to be more aligned with how I live my day-to-day life. And I think usually you're going to get the best golf out of yourself by just being your normal self on the course and not trying to step into some alter ego. But then again, I didn't have the most success. There's guys that had a lot more wins than I did. So maybe I'm wrong for that, but that was how I approached them.
It's very interesting because a lot of people because golf is such a tough sport as it is. And being a professional golfer, you have to win to make money. I mean, that's how the game is played. I mean, what do you usually need to shoot to be considered a pro golfer?
Boy, yeah, there's a lot of videos on my YouTube channel dissecting this. It's been a few months since I made any of them, so I could be off by a stroke or two here. I did do a lot of research earlier this year and broke all this down at length, but I think you're going to have a hard time being anything less than like a +5 handicap, meaning that your average score, it doesn't directly translate to you average shooting 5 under par, but somewhere in that ballpark of shooting, 3 to 5 under par very consistently on like, medium/difficult level golf courses from the tips. And then factoring into that the way that most people play golf on regular public golf courses, Monday through Friday, it's set up with pins kind of in the middle of the green for the everyday golfer to enjoy themselves and not, have every pin tucked behind a bunker or 3 yards from the edge of the green, where if you miss, it's going to kick into a water hazard. Like that's very uncommon in average golf, but that's extremely common in tournament golf. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're making the course as tough as possible, in most cases for professional golfers. And so being able to shoot, like I said, 3 to 5 under par on average at mid/high level difficulty golf courses and set up, about as difficult as possible. So really it would translate probably more to like 5 to 6 under per round on like an average golf course. And I think that just gets you into the conversation of like making cuts and at least not like losing all of your money, but to actually be winning at the mini tour professional level. I think it's very rare that you see something less than 15 under for a 3-day tournament win. So again, averaging 5 under per day. And oftentimes that gets even closer to 20, 21, 22 under, seeing guys average 7 or 8 under per day to win just a very mid-level mini tour event. Nothing crazy that's going to like change your career. You might win 8, 10, 11 grand for the week, cost you $2,000 just to be there, and entry fees and travel expenses. And you literally just shot 64, 63, 64, to win, and you pocket $8,000 and move on to the next week. Like it is. And the part that's so fascinating about that is those numbers are not very different than PGA Tour numbers. Obviously, PGA Tour is playing the most difficult golf courses on the face of the earth. There's no doubt about it that they're playing the toughest tracks out there, and they're set up as tough as possible, and they're long and the rough is thick. But they also have pristine conditions, much more perfectly manicured tee boxes, fairways, and greens, which does contribute to the scores that you can shoot, especially the greens. That's a very important part of being able to shoot low. You've got to have that ball roll pure and not bump. But they're not really shooting that different of scores than the mini tour players. Yes, it is a harder golf course setup, but it is really crazy when you break it down like that and show how the guys just come out of college playing on the mini tours can be fairly similarly skilled to some of these, top 100 players in the world, but playing for just, 1/100th of the prize fund, looking to earn $10,000 on the week versus $2 million on the week on the PGA Tour for, on paper, shooting very similar scores. But like I said, there are certainly other factors involved. Not trying to say that every mini tour guy is as good as every PGA Tour guy, but some of them are somewhat comparable, and obviously some of them do advance to the PGA Tour and get a chance to play for the big bucks. But it's a high level, man. It's a hard game to earn a living at, just on the competitive side of things.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how good pros actually have to be to actually make it in golf.
I think very few realize it. Yeah. And I think that was, a fun run earlier in the year I had, making a lot of videos about that particular topic. That's probably some of the most viral content I've ever created, and in a very non-viral format. It was just literally me sitting in this room, writing stuff on a whiteboard and talking for like 30 minutes at a time, and just really accumulating a lot of views in comparison to some of my other videos. And I think that's because of exactly what you said. A lot of people just don't know that. There's a ton of golf fans. It's one of the most popular sports on the planet right now. It's totally having a moment. So everyone's tuned in and wanting to learn about it. And I think most people just don't realize that it's like a couple hundred guys on the freaking face of the earth that are making actual money at this game. And that's it. So it's hyper competitive for sure.
Yeah, what does it take to qualify for the PGA Tour?
It's quite the process. It is changing this year, if I'm not mistaken. It used to be a two-tiered qualifying system. You play in Korn Ferry Tour Q School, which is 4 stages, 4 rounds for each of the first 3 stages, and I believe 6 rounds for the fourth stage. So a cumulative 18 rounds over the course of 4 months, costing roughly $15,000 to $20,000 between entry fees and travel. Hyper competitive, 25 guys advance at the end of it all, gaining their Korn Ferry Tour card for the following season, needing to then finish, I believe, in the top 25 of the Korn Ferry Tour money list at the end of that entire season to then advance to the PGA Tour. So it used to be a 2-year process, and that's been pretty much as long as I was a pro, that was the way it worked. But if I'm not mistaken, just this year it shifted where I think like there's a very small amount of guys, like 5 or 10 guys or something, that get through all 4 of the Korn Ferry Tour stages. They actually advance straight to the PGA Tour. And then the next, spots 10 through 25 or whatever, same thing. They go to the Korn Ferry for a full year and have to advance from there to the PGA. And Korn Ferry Tour Q School is the hardest. There are, I think, like 25 world tours at this moment, meaning that they offer world ranking points and an opportunity to actually advance your career through wins on each tour. So a mini tour doesn't necessarily have any ranking at all in the scope of like trying to get to the PGA Tour or the European Tour, which would be the 2 primary world tours that everyone wants to play on because the money is the best and the exposure is the best. There's about, who knows? There's dozens of mini tours in the United States alone that are not a part of that ranking system whatsoever. And they're basically just like training grounds. It's professional golf, and, you pay an entry fee. And if you make the cut, you earn a check in return. So that designates it as a professional golf tour, not amateur golf. But winning, on something like the Dakotas Tour, for example, which is a popular one in the Midwest, it doesn't advance your career at all. It's not like, if you won 5 times on the Dakotas Tour this year, you'd level up to the Korn Ferry Tour next year. But when you play in Q schools to get on one of these 25 world ranking point tours all over the world, South Africa, Asia, Australia, obviously Europe and America and Canada, North America, Canada and South America, there's all over the place, and they all have either a 1, 2, 3, or 4 stage qualifying school process, just meaning that it's either 1 4-day tournament, 2 separate 4-day tournaments, 3 or 4 of them. And those are the ones where there's actually like a ladder to climb. There's like a 3-tiered system of PGA Tours at the top, Korn Ferry Tours below it, and then PGA Tour. Now it's called PGA Tour Americas, which is the final Q school that I played in last year, my last attempt to try to get on one of these tours. It's a combination of the Latin American Tour and Canadian Tour. So that's like a tier 3 bottom level tour that if you win enough money on that money list, you rank up to the Korn Ferry Tour. And if you win enough money on that money list, you rank up to the PGA Tour. The European Tour, which is called the DP World Tour, then Hotel Planner Tour, and there's like 5 underneath that, but they have their own system as well, as does China, as does Japan. And so that's the appeal to spend all this crazy money to play in these Q schools all over the world, is that there's an actual pathway to get to the tours that everyone aspires to be on, because the money is just so minimal at the mini tour level. Even if you're incredibly lethal there and you win multiple times per season, which is so difficult to do, there's no reward. You're still not going to really earn a living for yourself, even a small living. I mean, there's a handful of guys that actually can survive on these mini tours year after year just off of their, ability to win 7 times per season. I mean, that's like those guys are every bit as good as the players in the PGA Tour, and they just haven't quite had a moment to, get to the proper tour that they want to be on. But for the majority of guys, it's a very unsustainable career path. Yeah.
That is so interesting, because it's the top tier of golfers that actually make the big bucks. Everyone's like, oh, golf is so expensive, and it's one of those sports that it's like, for me especially, like, okay, so hobbies is for the average person is only $250 per year. I surpass that easily. I can only imagine what it's like for someone that's trying to be a professional golfer and going to these tournaments, traveling. Can you unpack that a little bit about how the process is and how much can you win in a first place in a pro tournament?
Yeah. So it varies. It varies based on how many days the tournament is. I'd say that it's more common to see like 1 and 2 day events at the mini tour level that are a little more affordable. Your entry fee might look like $300 to $400 for a 1 day event. For a 2 day event, it might be $600 to $700. And then the 3 and 4 day events very often exceed $1,000 up to $1,500 on entry fee alone. And I've lived it myself for a long time and have asked friends and done a lot of calculating. And it's pretty fair to say that it costs twice as much as the entry fee for the entire tournament when you combine, almost always you're going to have to travel and have a hotel. It's very rare that there's a tournament just in your backyard that you can sleep in your own bed and play. So most of the time there's a travel component, either driving in gas or rental car or flying. And then there's going to be a lodging component, needing to get a hotel. There's almost always going to be, a practice round component. If you're taking it serious, then you're definitely going to want to be there early and play a practice round. You need golf balls for the week. You need gloves for the week. And obviously food and cart fees. You usually have to pay for cart fees, and that's pretty common at the mini tour level to take a cart because most guys don't have caddies. And if you're playing a full schedule, it's smart to conserve energy and not just burn yourself out walking all the time. And it helps with pace of play too. And they're very they're on you about pace of play at all the professional golf levels are. And so all those things combined, let's say we're playing a 3 day tournament that costs $1,000 to enter. You could easily put yourself down for $2,000 on the expense column for that week. And I found that it's, usually the top like 5 to 10% of the field can break even on that, not just the $1,000 entry fee, but actually the $2,000 total expenditure for the week. So in 100-person field, that would look like probably the top 5 to 10 guys are going to be breaking even, meaning that they would earn 2,000 or more. So most guys that make the cut are still losing money. It's actually kind of rare to see the last place the last place check for someone making the cut being equivalent to their entry fee. Oftentimes you might spend $1,000 on entry fee and they always cut to the top, like 33%, roughly, 1/3 of the field after, if it's a 2 day tournament, there might be a cut after 1 day. And if it's a 3 or 4 day tournament, there's going to be a cut after 2 days. Everyone who misses the cut goes home with no money. And a lot of times the guys who make the cut, but still finish at the bottom of the field, their paycheck might be $500. And then the entry fee was $1,000, but the actual expense was $2,000. So in theory, you made the cut, which is supposed to mean like, good job. You did your job as a professional golfer. You made the cut. You still might take a $1,500 loss on that week for shooting something like, 4 under. A lot of times the cuts after 2 days are, 3, 4, 5 under par, which is, great shooting. That's very, very competitive golf. But you still might, totally eat a loss on the week. And you really need to be truly, it's win or die at the mini tour level. There's really not much chance to survive out there unless you're winning multiple events per season. The highest first place check I've ever heard of is the Colorado Open, which used to be $100,000 for first place. I don't know if that's still the case. The second highest was something called the Waterloo Open in Iowa, which was $50,000 for first place. And those are total anomalies. Other than those, very, very rare to see something above 20K. There might be a few spread out across the US that are like 25, 30K first place checks, but it's normally, a very healthy first place check if it's just anything above $10,000 for a 3 or 4 day tournament. And it's when you contrast that with how much money it costs to consistently play pro golf tournaments, 2, 3, 4 times per month, which is what you have to do if you want to be competitive. A win sometimes it only gets you through like another 6 weeks. Let's say you're playing 3 tournaments a month and you're spending $2,000 for each tournament, you're putting out 6K per month, and you've got coaching expenses and stuff as well. If you're taking lessons or clubs, obviously equipment expenses. So there's more to it than just the tournament week expenses. But let's just say that costs you 6K and you win one of them, and it's a big one. You get 10 grand for first, but you're spending 6K a month. So at the end of 2 months, you actually dumped 12K. So that win, it didn't even get you through 2 months. But I would say, in golf, where there's typically 100 players or more per tournament, a win is amazing. Like, congrats, dude. Like, very few people win ever. You can piece an entire career together at the PGA Tour level, never winning, and still make millions of dollars. But at the mini tour level, it's like, no, dude, you need to win 5 times a year and hope that some of those checks are like 20K, or else you're not even going to sniff that $100,000 income mark. And you have to pay taxes on it too. But your expenditures, probably minimum of 6K a month. For some guys, it's closer to 10K a month, playing tournaments that involve, more travel and playing Q schools. So your break-even point for a full-time pro golfer in most cases is over 100,000 per year. And like I just said, even winning 5 times in a season in multi-day big events, you're probably not going to get to that 100K a year mark. So you're probably going to lose money on the year. And I think so many of my friends have lived that year after year after year, and you guys just burn out because they're like, what am I doing? Like, I'm literally top 500 in the world at something, and I'm like losing money every year. I'm going to go do something else. It's very disheartening, and it's kind of a broken system in my opinion.
Yeah, with all that being said, what's one of the biggest challenges of being a pro golfer, and how can we solve it?
I mean, yeah, I'd say that the disproportionate entry fees to payout ratio, what you get for what you give, it's just completely out of whack. And the only way to solve it is to drum up an extreme amount of interest in golf at the mini tour level, which doesn't currently exist. Golf is popular, no doubt, and people love watching the PGA Tour, Live Tour, DP World Tour, because they're televised and it's with players that are household names, that are incredible talents, and they put on a show. But at the mini tour level, the struggle is that no one's ever heard of, 99% of these guys, unless you're like a real niche golf fan and you spend a lot of time reading blogs and Reddit threads, and you know what's going on in the mini tours, or you yourself, or maybe a former player. That's about the only category of people that would know, have any clue what's going on in the mini tours. And so with no interest in a tour and nobody, tuning in to watch it every week so that a television channel could run ad spots and stuff on it every week. If there's no attention on the tour, then there's no way to monetize it. It's not a product. No one's going to buy that product because there's no eyeballs on it, and attention is currency. So the solution to that is making it a big deal. And I think social media is the way we do that, right? I was, able to grow a pretty sizable personal brand for myself as not a very good professional golfer. I was definitely not one of the better guys out there. So I kind of just did it through volume, an insane amount of videos over a very long period of time. Volume times consistency equals, I don't care what your talent level is, you're going to get some level of results if you can hammer away at something for 10 years. And so that's kind of been my story, but there are so many guys that are so much more marketable than me off of their skill set, as a golfer, that just aren't going to take the time to do it. It's such a grind to build. It's as much of a grind to build a personal brand on social media as it is to become a successful pro golfer. I feel like they're neck and neck, equally cutthroat industries to actually succeed in and earn a living, because everyone wants to do it. Everyone wants to be an influencer. It seems like the coolest, easiest career ever. And that makes the pool of people competing against you massive. I mean, it's everyone now. Everyone's posting content and trying to grow something and sell something. So similar to golf, very, very difficult. But I think the majority of pro golfers are just not interested in trying to be out there with the camera and a tripod at every single tournament and sitting down in their car after the rounds to decompress and talk about, and showing their preparation, showing themselves cooking food in the hotel and talking about their mindset going into the tournament. And these are all things that I did for my entire career. Since 2016, when I turned pro, I was out there with my phone and I was posting everything on Instagram, and brick by brick, that's what's taken me here. But I think very few guys want to do that. And so unfortunately, like I said, there's no networks coming in broadcasting mini tour golf because for them, it's you have to have been a part of it, like I myself am, to realize the talent level out there. It's insane. It's through the roof. These guys are so good. If you put them on TV, I don't think it would disappoint. I just think for the big box golf companies and networks, it's too much of a risk, and they already are making billions of dollars a year off of like the core golfers and the mainstream golf industry. So it takes a disruptor like myself to kind of come in there and be like, look, this is a big problem. And like the only way to give mini tour professional golfers larger prize funds to play for, where they could actually win $100,000 for first place, is charging them more money in entry fees. And at this point, it's already through the roof. No, these guys are going broke and getting mortgages on their houses and stuff, trying to figure out how to pay for another $2,500 Q school. It's, if the way the system works is it's like poker. Everybody puts their money in the pot. Everyone antes up their $1,500 entry fee. And then at the end of the tournament, it's a very top heavy dispersion of the first place getting the most. And then, all the way down to the top third of the field getting some of that pot. But it needs sponsor money. There have to be companies that are invested in the growth of the tour and putting money in it for the guys to play for as well. And in order for that to make sense for a company to do, and not just on like a charitable basis, but actually on like a smart business basis, there needs to be a lot of eyeballs on this tour so that them marketing their products and being involved as a sponsor of the tour actually gives them an ROI, because there's so many, millions of people watching this mini tour. And I think the way that we do that is, one, coaching the individual players on personal branding on social media and teaching guys how to, brick by brick, build an authentic personal brand where you've got a loyal following of fans that are excited to watch your career. And if you gave them an opportunity through, like a streaming platform or like a miniature Netflix show or YouTube series or something like that, where it was actually documenting this mini tour, then their fans would actually be interested in watching or paying some small fee to go to the tournaments in person or whatever. So I think that's the process. There's got to be a tour built where the players are kind of all social media friendly, or at the very least, camera friendly, and letting somebody else come in and document and produce a show about the tour, so that then there can become a fanhood of, the fact that, oh man, like there's more than just PGA Tour golf. And it's quite honestly, it's more interesting because these are the guys that are broke and very talented. So it's not like it's like some low tier golf that you're going to watch and flip off immediately because the guys suck. It's not that at all. Like, to the average golf fan, it's not noticeable. There's no noticeable difference. So the quality of golf is high, but the emotion of it is just uncomparable, because when you're really playing for your life and if you don't have money yet and actual job security on the PGA Tour, those guys are going to give you so much more fire than the PGA Tour guys that are, just doing so much better in life, where of course they want to win and of course they're competitive, but it doesn't mean as much when you're sitting on, a healthy amount of money in the bank already. So that would be my proposed solution to the mini tour golf problem.
Yeah, golf is so cutthroat. I mean, a lot of people out there that golf, they have a golf coach or a swing coach. You got to buy golf balls, you got to buy golf gloves. I mean, sponsorship should be key for any pro golfer out there. Do a lot of them have sponsorships?
Yeah, it's no, not a lot of them. It's a small fraction, certainly not the majority. There's an increasing number of guys creating content on social media and kind of following the path that's been built for them the last couple of years of people proving that you can actually get sponsorship as an athlete in golf and other sports too. You can, not necessarily be the top of your class in a sport, but if you're marketable and personable and create a lot of content, you might still pick up brand sponsorships. We're seeing more guys doing that, but definitely as far as guys that are sponsored just purely off of their talent alone, the old school model of like, go hang around the country club and just try to play with the members and have lunch after and stuff. And maybe one of them will see something in you they like and give you a shot where they say, okay, let's go let's watch you play 5 rounds in a row. And if you can shoot 20 under, then I'll flip you 50 grand for the year. Like I have friends that have done that, and it's rare and extremely difficult. And usually these investors have this warped reality that they're going to like make money off of their investment quickly. And so the player might actually perform really well and like still have a couple wins and, make that money back and give it back to the investor. But the investor's like, well, normally when I invest 100 grand, I earn 20%. And that's more of a long-term play with the pro golfer. It's certainly possible, if you pick the right horse and you stick with him all the way through the ranks, yeah, he might hit the jackpot and make millions of dollars, and your 10 or 20% on that, could yield an incredible ROI. But the majority of investors, that's what they're hoping for. And they don't see it after a year or two. And they think, oh my gosh, he's just not that good. And they stop investing in him. And the player's like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, I'm playing really good. Like you don't understand how hard it is to earn a profit for you as my investor. Like it's going to probably take 5 to 7 years, even for the best of the best, to become a profitable, investment horse for an investor. So I think that, there's a little bit of that where guys have investors just purely based off of, someone thinking that they have an incredible game at the country club. But I think we're going to start to see more and more guys lean into the social media route where it's not purely based on your merit as a player. It's based on, can you drive revenue and eyeballs to a company that has a product that they're paying you to promote, whether it's golf polos, golf clubs, shoes, food, energy drinks. There's a lot of buckets of, ways that athletes can get, paid brand deals and sponsorship if they have a social media following and an audience. And yeah, I mean, I'm really hopeful that more guys lean into that opportunity because money is moving hands. There's companies with millions and millions of dollars that they're pouring into influencer marketing. And unfortunately, most of it's being scooped up by not necessarily the best golfers, but just the best marketers. And I think there's enough for everyone. And it just would involve, or it would require the actual professional golfer market to really see it and seize that opportunity and just start cranking out content. It's wild how much it can change your life if you just stick with it for a couple of years. So.
Yeah, Alex, you were one of the pioneers in YouTube golf. What made you want to start your YouTube golf channel?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have been posting for a while, but I would say I'm certainly not like, I'm not a big YouTube golfer, one of the best there. I have a decent size, Instagram and TikTok following, and I've poured a lot more energy into those two platforms up until this year. This is the first year that making consistent YouTube content has become a priority for me. But I would certainly, accept that I was one of the pioneers of just like overall golf content creation as a professional golfer. I truly don't know if there was anybody else doing it in 2016, 17 when I kind of started. And it's been really, really cool to see, because that's the goal. Like if you're trying to pave a path that doesn't exist and then bring others with you, I think that's, a life well lived, having an impact and creating a way for other people and pulling them up with you. And I obviously haven't gotten to any crazy height in professional golf, but I certainly feel like I've had some level of impact in showing like, damn, you can monetize being a pro golfer in ways other than getting checks for winning the tournament. If you just constantly make content about the journey that you're on and connect with your fans and do live streams and answer questions and host meetups and do giveaways, like make it fun for people to watch your golf journey and give them something to attach to and root for, because big box pro golfers don't do that. And they're starting to now. They're watching us more than we're watching them this year. And it's the most baffling and humbling thing ever that Tommy Fleetwood's starting a YouTube channel. Obviously Bryson, it was kind of the first and the biggest, but there are so many people walking into that boat now and realizing like, dude, if we don't start connecting with the fans who are ultimately, they're putting money in our pockets. It's not the PGA Tour. It's funneled through the PGA Tour, but it's the fans going to the tournaments and buying tickets and buying merch and, paying to make the PGA Tour as big as it is. And if you're just a player on the PGA Tour and all you do is take from that pot, but you give nothing back to the fans in the way of, because obviously they all have obligation to do interviews and whatnot after tournaments, but that's very, it's not as personal as like an Instagram post, like seeing freaking Tommy Fleetwood be like, what's up guys? I just walked off 18 and like, it was a tough day out there for me. That's so like raw and unfiltered and personal and gives people so much more sense of your personality and something to either root for or root against. And those are the people that are going to have the best brands, is the ones that are a little bit more polarizing and controversial and not just so vanilla where they never say anything that anyone could disagree with. But there is certainly, a huge shift of the big box main PGA Tour and Live Tour golfers leaning into social media and doing a ton of it and getting involved with actual content creators, not pro golfers, but just the guys that are the biggest in the content space, and both kind of utilizing each other for cross promotion. And because it's cool for fans too. It's really sick to see like your favorite trick shot guy paired with, one of your favorite tour players. That's a crazy crossover that's just interesting and fun to watch. And I think we're just going to continue to see more and more of that. And the guys that don't do that are going to suffer. It is a lot of work, but it's fun. It's basically like expanding your social circle and network and meeting cool people and turning into somewhat of a performer, which I think that's common in other sports. Football and basketball, those guys are true showmen and they're more used to letting their personality out on the court and the field. But golf is such a stoic, chill sport that it's I think these guys are not quite as comfortable with it and used to it as athletes from other sports. But it's clearly evolving right now. And to answer your question, it's super humbling and cool to feel like I had even, just a fractional part over the last 10 years in that happening, and knowing that some of the younger guys looked at me and watched what I did. And that was the inspiration to start posting videos. And now they're way better than me at golf or way bigger than me on social media. Like that's cool to see. And yeah, it's sometimes, I hear it from people and have outreach and stuff that lets me know that's the case. And yeah, it's just a cool evolution to watch happen and have any role in it whatsoever. Because I think ultimately it's making the game bigger. It's making the game more fun. It's bringing in way more people from all different walks of life that never would have thought golf was cool if the only way they saw it was on the PGA Tour on the weekends. But then they see some really cool like YouTube crossover with some tour player and they're like, damn, these guys are playing some like night golf challenge or some like speed golf thing. Like that was funny or interesting or cool. And then they get into golf, and then it ultimately just expands the game and the money in the pot. And it will allow, in the future, that will lead to mini tour guys being able to get paid more. That will lead to, golf definitely for a while. I feel like it was going extinct almost in 2020. I think right before that, it seemed like a lot of courses in my area were like shutting down. Like it wasn't a smart business move to own a golf course. Like it cost more money in water than they were able to bring in greens fees. And it just was looking dark for a while, but that is not the case anymore. It's booming big time, which is cool to see as a lifelong fan of the game.
Yeah, YouTube golf has really came out of nowhere the last couple of years, and it's something that a lot of people watch YouTube golf more than the PGA now. I mean, I know so many people that they love watching YouTube golfers. I mean, has YouTube helped your golf career in any way?
Bro, yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be the future for me. I've definitely got a good grip on short form content and have created tens of thousands of short form pieces on Instagram and TikTok, but YouTube is still, I'm very new in that ecosystem in terms of making like actual long form, like full 18-hole vlogs and stuff like that. I really just hired an editor about 2 months ago. It's you wouldn't believe how long it takes to just make one video. It's like 20 hours of editing to put the shot tracers on it and all that. And just something I couldn't possibly keep up. We're trying to do like 3 to 5 videos a week right now, which feels like what you've got to do to be like an active player in the game and keep up with some of the bigger YouTube golfers. But I really believe that is what's going to allow me to have a long-term career in this. I think one of the things that's common with influencers as well, it's similar to like musicians and artists and stuff. Like it's got a short lifespan. Like you have a moment and you're popular and people are really into your stuff, and you're lucky to see that last more than a year or two in most of these creative spaces. And I think I've been fortunate enough to have some level of success and relevance for like 5 or more years now. I think I've definitely outlasted, the typical life cycle, but I'm not done. I'm definitely not ready to be like, all right, that was a good run and that was fun and time to get a job. Like, I know this wasn't all for nothing. And I think that the way I can guarantee that that's the case is constant YouTube posting, like just giving people hour-long episodes to watch multiple times per week, and starting to just get better and better and better at positioning those videos in an interesting way. It's so much more than the video itself. It's the thumbnailing and the titling and making it just like almost impossible to scroll past without clicking. Like just such an interesting proposition that's posed to you in the title and the thumbnail that you just got to click it. And then from there, you can obviously hit people with the value in the rest of the video. But that's an interesting game, and it's a tough game. I think it's tougher than the short form game, and it's certainly not something I've got figured out yet, but I can tell that. And the reason I say I think it's pivotal to have a large YouTube following if I want to have a long-term career as a content creator, is because the average watch time, I think on my channel right now, average watch time is like 5 to 6 minutes. So one person clicking on a video of mine and watching it, that averages 5 to 6 minutes, versus Instagram, it's like 12 seconds, and part of that is because the video length is just simply longer on YouTube, but it's a much higher ratio of the video that they're watching. And so that gives me an opportunity to show so much more of my personality, share so much more value. If it's an educational video, for example, if I've got somebody, paying attention to what I'm saying for 5 minutes, man, in today's day and age, that's a long time to get someone to sit still, or even if they're not watching, even if they're just listening while they're driving or on a walk or at the gym, you can still convey a lot of value. And ultimately, the goal in my position is to monetize. This is not a hobby anymore. This is a full-time career for me. So I have no choice but to monetize. And so having someone's attention span for that long gives me a much better chance to sell something, right? Whether it's promoting somebody else's product or service, a brand partner of mine that I'm aligned with, or my own courses or mentorship or a retreat that I'm hosting or a webinar. There's so many ways you can splinter off and earn an income through it. But I think only, putting all your eggs in the bucket of getting 11-second watches on Instagram and TikTok, even if the views might be 100,000, 200,000, which just seems like, oh, that's massive. How could you not make money with that? I've lived it. I've lived having, a million followers on TikTok and making no money from it. It's very common. It is not like a 1-to-1 ROI of getting views and then getting dollars in the bank, but it's the quality and the depth of that audience member and how much they're actually invested in you and what you're saying, and how much trust they have in you. And that only comes with just a higher watch time. And that's why I'm so focused on YouTube this year. So I think it's going to be the future for me 1,000%, and other content creators as well. I think you got to be on YouTube.
Yeah, 1% of content creators make money out there online. And
Oh, wow.
the way you're doing it on your YouTube golf channel is really remarkable, because you're showing the journey. It's all about the journey, not the destination, but the personal development throughout the journey, which is so powerful on your channel. I love watching it. You do great content all the time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Let me turn the light on really quick. It's getting kind of dark in here, and I realize
for it.
it's probably hard for you guys to see. Hope that helps at least a little bit. But yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, what are some of your goals for your golfing channel on YouTube?
Yeah, 2 goals. The value channels that I want to hammer on are entertainment and education, and inspiration too. Those are the main 3 pieces of value I'm trying to deliver. And so the last couple months, I've been super heavy on just purely entertainment. I've been doing a ton of collabs, so many different golf creators and athletes from other sports, and playing in, like I said, little networking events and celebrity tournaments and stuff. Just entertainment, fun, lighthearted stuff. And earlier this year, like I said, it was, purely education. I had this whiteboard that I was just cooking on every day, trying to write up, some breakdown of this different PGA tour, the way to get through Q school and then the cost of this. So I was really trying to share what I had learned about the level of pro golf I had played at over the years, so that guys younger than me thinking about getting into that career could really see what they're getting into and how to prepare for it. Most notably just the cost associated with it, which I think there just was not a whole lot of information out there about that when I was getting into it. And had it been out there, yeah, I probably would have pivoted away from professional golf a lot sooner. And I probably could have saved 5 years of my life that I kind of wasted out there, just sort of delusional, thinking that I was going to earn an income through mini tour pro golf and just not really being close to it. So I think it's helpful information, and a lot of guys will save a lot of time, a lot of struggle and energy, and ultimately, sounds heavy to use the word suffering, but that's what it is. I can save people a lot of suffering by making that educational content on the things that I have experience with, and also in the realm of health, how to try to set yourself up to have longevity as an athlete. And, I'm 34 now, and I think I'm not even at my peak yet in terms of physical fitness and golf game. And that's not necessarily common. There's tons of people my age that are starting to have things on their body break down and not moving the same that they used to move when they were younger. And I think there's definitely things you can do to stack the chips in your favor in terms of aging, slowly. And so that's something that I'm always passionate about. And then, of course, creating content and all of the potential opportunities you can create for yourself through having a personal brand, and obviously being able to gain sponsorships as a pro golfer through having a social media following is something that I think I can help guys with. So there's all these facets of stuff that I have experienced in life. And I think that's really what we're all best qualified to teach others with, is just what we've done ourselves. There's really nothing that you have more mastery of than a transformational journey that you yourself have been on, from overweight to in shape, or 30 handicap to scratch golfer, or 0 followers to 1 million. Those are all transformations that other people want to go on as well. If you can articulate how you did it in a step-by-step format, there's reason to believe people will pay you for that information, and also your guidance in helping them achieve it. So I think it's twofold, right? That the main high impact thing that I want to do is the education, and then the development at some point of my own version of a golf tour that I think is targeted at professional golfers and trying to elevate their prize funds and lower their entry fees. Those are my two core values and high value, impact things that I want to work on. And then I think entertainment just always, it bolsters the message. Like, you can be the smartest dude in the world, but if you speak like a professor that's just very dry and boring, it's going to be hard to get people to pay attention to that information and really care about what you're saying enough to give you the attention span necessary to learn the information. But if you can blend it with fun and making it like a lighthearted, exciting thing to be a part of, which is what I'm trying to do by also creating a lot of entertaining, collab matches and being a part of some doing travel stuff too. Sometimes, traveling and showcasing a golf destination or an entire city in some cases, and giving people a sense of, what golf is like in this part of the world and that part of the world. Those are all just kind of fun, easy watching stuff that might attract a broader audience of, just basic golf fans. And then some of those people are going to stumble upon the more high level educational stuff that I have, and I'll be able to maybe help them in some capacity as well, rather than just purely entertain them. But it's it's a twofold value proposition business model at this point. And I'm definitely not at my final form of having both of them polished, like where I really think I'm hammering on those two value propositions as best as possible. Like, the video is really entertaining or really educational. Like, there's room for improvement in both of those styles of content for me right now, as well as, needing to build out like more in-depth, hardcore value, like courses and things. So I'm definitely still a long way from where I'd like to be with it, but that's the big picture vision.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your career in the next 5 years with the YouTube golf.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a good run. Definitely excited for the future.
Yeah, what has been some of the best golf courses you've played on?
Boy, I really enjoyed golf in Puerto Rico. I got to play the golf course. I think it's called. God, I don't want to miss say what it was called. It's where they have the Puerto Rico Open every year. I got to play in the pro am for that, which is a PGA Tour event. Last year, I want to say that was a beautiful course, tropical environment. Earlier this year, I really enjoyed playing in Virginia, a small city called Williamsburg. Got to work with their tourism board and play 4 different courses out there. Williamsburg National, Golden Horseshoe, which I believe is like a top 100 ranked public course in the world, which was the same designer that designed Augusta National. And then in Kings Mill was like a whole golf complex with 3 courses. Golf was beautiful over there, super tall trees, completely different environment than what I'm used to here in California. In California, boy, oh boy, we're spoiled. There's a ton of gorgeous golf out here. I really enjoy playing, um, just locally. Boy, Tierra Rajada, Moore Park Country Club. There's a couple great country clubs: Saticoy, Spanish Hills, Las Posas, Sherwood. I used to caddy at Sherwood, which is in Westlake, and Tiger Woods used to host his tournament there every year. Played some great golf in Florida, Palm Beach National, where they host PGA Tour event in February every year. Scotland, really enjoyed golf over in Scotland. Argentina, boy, a lot of places, man. Play a lot of golf and a lot of fun places. But honestly, I haven't done a lot of the like top ranked bucket list courses. Oh my God, almost forgot. Big Cedar in Missouri, they have kind of their signature course, which is called Paynes Valley, and another signature course called Ozark National and Buffalo Ridge, and they're building more courses as we speak out there. And they their operation was just incredible. But yeah, the real like top 100 public and private courses in the world, I've yet to really put them on a board and start trying to tick them off one by one. But that would be a life bucket list goal for sure.
Yeah, I recently found out what sand bunkers, how they were formed in the game. Do you know why how they're there in the game?
No, I don't actually.
So they're from Scotland, okay? So sheep used to roam the land there, and they used to be high winds there. So they would actually dig, a little bit into the ground, and they're usually golf courses were next to water. So the high winds would kick up the sand, and those sheep would actually like just all be in the bunker, and they would just all be cuddled up there, and that's what formed sand bunkers.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start telling people that. I never knew that. That's cool, man.
Yeah, no, there's so much stuff to the game that's so just so much to it. I mean, even shooting a shot out of the bunker, the sand bunker, I mean, that's so much more difficult than, putting or just something like that. But I mean, I keep on falling in love with the game, no matter what I'm doing. If I'm using the pitching wedge or I'm taking a driver or a 3-wood, it's always in something new.
Yeah,
It's a different style of hitting every type of thing you do, and it's like some things aren't working out today, but the other things are. And that's the beauty of the game. Now, if you could play any golf tournament in the world, which one would it be?
probably the Masters. Yeah.
I would have to say the
Yeah,
same.
that would be the best one, I think. Yeah.
And this is the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and the moments that really shaped you. What has been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Hmm. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. I don't know who the original quote was, but I heard it from a self-improvement YouTuber named Hamza, who's one of my like favorite public figures, mentors. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. And what that means is like that's where you develop discipline and mental toughness and tenacity. It comes from like when you wake up in the morning and you feel crappy or you're tired or it's cold out, like that's the time when you especially need to get out of bed, or when like you really don't want to take a cold shower and your brain is really trying to weasel out of it and give you some excuse about why I don't have time for the cold shower today, or it's too cold outside. I don't want to be, cold going to work. Whenever there's that mental resistance and that little voice in the back of your head telling you not to do something, but it's beneficial work to you, like getting up early, taking a cold shower, going to the gym, sitting on your computer and banging out the emails, the things that you know you need to do to be successful, but are hard, and your brain is going to give you resistance every time it's time to do that task. There's always going to be some excuse going on in your brain of why you shouldn't do it, or some justification of why it can wait till tomorrow or another time. Those are the moments that you have to catch that little mental resistance coming up and override it, because that's what turns you into a beast. The people that are really successful in life, they don't really care how they feel. Like I said earlier with the content, it's this volume times consistency, like putting out a ton of videos for a long period of time, you're going to win. I don't really care how you're going to get good. Even if you're the worst at speaking and you have the least interesting life, if you do it for 5 to 10 years, I guarantee you will get very good and you'll get a reward for it. And that's true with the gym. That's true with golf. That's true with business. That's true in relationships and anything in life. You got to do the hard work and the boring work repeatedly, day after day after day. And everyone has that same, internal turmoil that comes up, especially on our off days when we're tired or sick or in a bad mood. And the people that can just like recognize, like, no, that's like my little internal, like, whiner trying to come up and tell me not to do it. Those are the moments where you especially need to override it and do the hard work, because that's where you develop those, discipline, if you will, or just the ability to do what needs to be done, even if you don't feel like doing it. And those are the real killers in life. I think they all have that trait in common. So do the hard
Yeah,
work,
keep stacking those
especially when you
small
don't feel
wins.
like it. Yeah.
And it
Hell
almost
yeah.
seems like everyone wants the view of the mountain, but they don't want the climb.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, a lot of people out there, they understand the content game and they're like, oh, it's so easy and stuff like that. But I mean, in the day for like you doing YouTube golf, I mean, it just didn't happen. You put in a lot of work from 2016 on to get where you're at today. I mean, with the Instagram, the TikTok, I mean, me with the podcast, it's one of those things that people just see, oh, you're doing something. Why are you doing it? They like to hate on you for doing it in the beginning. And then they see you just, you're going forward and you're doing what you want to do and you're doing what you love. That's what it's all about. What's one truth
Yep.
about life that you wish more people understood?
It's all okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everyone is so worked up and stressed out and panicked. And it's like, when has it ever not stabilized? It's just, there's ups and downs, highs and lows, day and night, light and dark, hot and cold. There's a million parables of that balance of opposites, but neither is ever permanent. So everyone, I know, like, there's real things going on for all kinds of people, myself included, but to feel like it's finite and like, this is just the way it's going to be forever. I'm going to be heartbroken forever, or sick forever, or broke forever, or unsuccessful forever is just not true. And it's like, after a certain amount of years, I feel like it should click in for all of us to like, okay, the storm always passes. And then the high also always levels out. You're never going to be on top of the world forever. You're never going to be at rock bottom forever. It's all good. This is like the experience of life. It's meant to ebb and flow the same way that every single day has, some time in the sun and some time in the dark. It does, we could save a lot of stress and anxiety and worry if we just kind of leaned into the actual experience of life and kind of slowed down. And this is literally advice for myself. This is the exact podcast that I need to listen to. It's amazing how much I know what to say, and I've been around long enough and listened to enough podcasts and experienced life enough myself that I know the answers to all my own problems, but that still doesn't mean that I'm going to take them to heart and really, listen to it. So it's good to be asked these questions and try to, pretend that I'm giving advice to someone else, but really it's just advice to myself. It's like, slow down, dude. It is okay. Like, you do not have to feel like I feel at the end of every day, like I failed. Like I didn't do enough, which is crazy because I do so much, dude. It's like if I actually wrote on a piece of paper everything that I did in a given day, and I'm not saying every day I'm perfect, but on my best days when I'm firing, it's a lot. It's a lot for one person. But to sit there and be like, no, 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 it wasn't enough, dude. We needed to get more done today. We're falling behind. Someone else is doing more than you. Someone else is better than you, and they're richer than you, and they got this part of their life going that you don't have. It's like, enough, dude. Like you're robbing yourself of the enjoyment. Like you're doing amazing. You're doing so good. Look at how much better you're doing than last year and the year before. And you know what? Every year in your life, you've never not progressed year after year after year. So what's the deal, bro? Just slow down, man. It's okay. Like that would be one thing I would say.
100%. And you only get so many summers in a lifetime. And with that being said, what has been the biggest driving factor for success in your career?
Biggest driving factor for success. My family. Yeah, I wanted to make my family proud and wanting to eventually be able to take care of them the way they've taken care of me. So right now, my family is my mom and my dad. And then obviously in the future, looking forward to a wife and children. So yeah, that would be the driving factor. It's just family. So I don't think I care that much about my achievements and success, which is wild to say because I appear to be someone who is just, that's what I'm driven by is numbers and views and trying to, win golf tournament. Everything I've picked in life is a very achievement based and difficult goal. But I don't like when I achieve things, I don't think I actually have any intrinsic satisfaction myself. Like, oh, like a good example, yesterday I hit 70,000 followers. It's great on Instagram. It's been a lot of work and it's doubled this year from like 35K back in February. I'm not celebrating. There's no like, oh, that's, great job, man. And I think it's just because on my own, it doesn't fulfill me, but sharing it with family, like hearing my parents say, I'm proud of you, or I can imagine in the future having a wife that's grateful for you providing for her and bringing money home. Like that's what being of service to others, feeling valuable to others, feeling needed by others, and specifically family. I think that's what does it for me. But I think it's also evident in the career I've chosen with social media that I clearly care about being of service and valuable to others as well. And I spend all my time every day trying to put a message out into the world. So I think just in general, yeah, it's the joy I get from connection with others far exceeds any joy that I get from some goal that I've achieved just on my own.
Yeah, no, goals are just there to just surpass, like for me personally, I surpassed the 100 marker for a podcast. I'm on like 120
Hell
now.
yeah.
And it's
Good
like
job.
I celebrate for half a second and it meant something for me for half a second. I got a next podcast to get to. It's just one of those things that you celebrate the small wins, but those small wins stack up to one big one. And it's all about the journey, not the destination, like the personal development, like we were saying. And in 1 year's time, you can change your whole life.
I totally agree. Yeah, you really can. That would be another good thing to let people know, or another good piece of advice. Yeah, in 6 and 12 months, you can literally change your whole entire life. I would say I've done it this year as well, from the beginning of the year until now. Yeah, total 180 in pretty much everything in my life. And that's not a lot of time, in the overall scheme of life. We're gonna, God willing, get a lot more 6-month stretches, and man, you could do some damage if you piece together 2 or 3 in a row of them. So yeah,
You only get so many summers in a lifetime. Go live them up and go make the most of them. You know what I mean? And Alex, this is the show. This is the part that, the show is called Every Day is Friday. And Friday has a
Hmm.
special energy, whether it's freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you?
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I would say I'm in a weird position in life where I don't really have a traditional career that has a break between Monday through Friday. So oftentimes I'm like unaware of what day it actually is because the weekends are still, I'm not saying like, oh, I work every day and never take a day off. Of course I do, but I don't really have a traditional schedule. But I understand the essence of the question. Like, what does Friday mean, or what does the day off mean? Um, I guess, yeah, like yeah, time to slow down, time to actually celebrate the hard work and the achievements that have come during the work period that you just had, and be with friends and family, um and be reflect a little bit on what you just did, rather than uh continuing to have the foot on the gas 24/7, and missing all the little moments in life.
Every day is Friday.
Every day is Friday.
And this is your chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. Is there anything else you want to share?
Boy, I think I shared a lot, that's for sure. I'm definitely get me ranting, and it's hard to get me stopped, bro. I feel like I said a lot already. Anything I want to leave the listeners with, just do it, man. Just do it. Whatever the thing is that you want to do. I hear so many people, especially now that I'm becoming more prominent in the content space. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody's like, I'm thinking about starting a channel, man. I want to start doing some Instagram videos, or I want to start playing more golf or more tournaments. And it's like, yes, that's good, dude. Yes, you should. You don't need anybody to tell you, because when people say that, and I only know this because I've done this my whole life too. You're fishing for validation. You're talking about it with your buddies at the bar, and calling your mom to tell her about it, and you're putting a social media poll up. Should I start a YouTube channel? It's like, it's obviously on your mind to do it. Just do it. And nobody is going to care as much as you, and nobody will care until you've done it for so long that they can't ignore it. Like with your podcast, 120 podcasts, dude, good job. I know how hard that is to consistently create a long form. Like, this is like a 2-hour show for you, bro. That's a long time. This ain't no like 12-second TikTok that you can make in 5 minutes. So I know the consistency in that is brutal. But that's where the reward comes from, is just making a decision and a commitment, and doing it for a long, long, long time, well past the inflection point of challenge or struggle, or because it's fun in the beginning. You're excited and you're like gung ho. You bought a new camera, or you got a new set of golf clubs or whatever, but there's going to come a point inevitably where it's not fun anymore, and it feels like work, and it's hard, and you're tired, and it's rainy, or the algorithm isn't showing your videos to anybody. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's what's supposed to happen, because not everybody can win at everything. There has to be a point where people get weeded out. And you just have to remember that at that point where you don't want to keep going anymore, everybody else feels that way too. That's how everyone else feels too. So all you have to do in that point is just don't quit. You just keep going, and you're just going to fly past the people that succumb to the normal temptation to just kind of take your foot off the gas. It doesn't feel like the podcast hasn't hit yet. That's how I feel right now with YouTube as well. I'm spending some serious money on editing and filming and travel, and I'm putting out what I think is pretty good content, and it is straight up flopping in my for where I'm at right now, where I think I should be at based on the experience I have with content, the level of people that I'm able to collaborate with, and the social network I have, and the cameras I have. It's like, to me, it's actually shocking. And I'm doing it consistently 3 days a week, and we're doing dozens and dozens of shorts on all my channels to promote it. And I'm texting the videos to my friends, and it just straight up feels like it's not working. And I'm like, you know what? It is working. This is exactly the point that every other successful YouTuber in the history of YouTube has gotten to. And the ones that became successful, they just kept going. They just put the blinders on and ignored that, feeling of dejection that comes from putting a lot of effort into something and not getting an immediate result, or in some cases, not getting a result for multiple years. That's kind of how golf works. And in a lot of cases, that's how social media works. But that's because these are extremely high value careers. And the upside, if you actually get to the top of the sport or the pinnacle of content creation, the reward is millions of dollars. And not only that, but tremendous fulfillment for knowing you did such a difficult thing. And especially in the content world, having a microphone so big that millions of people hear you when you speak every day, and the power of that, and the ability to impact people, is an amazing responsibility that, if used properly, that can do a lot of good in the world. So it's supposed to be hard. There have to be like levels in a video game that you got to pass and beat the boss and beat the boss and beat the boss. And the difficulty increases, but the reward increases at the end of it as well. So,
And for the listener out there, most people think about things about like just in days. You have to think about decades if you're doing anything. You with the YouTube channel is a perfect example of 2016 and you're still going at it. And every year, like you're saying, you're improving, and that's what it's all about, the journey.
It is 100%, man. That was my favorite little mantras like 10 years ago is like enjoy the journey, or the journey is greater than the destination. And, obviously that's corny or whatever, but that's true. That is what it's about. I learned so long ago that it actually did not matter if I got to these places I was trying to go, like the PGA Tour, for example. That that was a journey I was on and committed to when I was like 13 years old, and I'm not there. But does that mean that my life isn't good, or somehow like the last 20 years of me pursuing that weren't good? No, I'm in an amazing place. My life is insane right now. I could have never imagined the things I'm doing and the people I'm working with and the organizations and companies and then sometimes whole countries that I'm working. It's unbelievable. And that all came from, I aimed at something. You pick a destination you're trying to go to, and then you run as fast as you can. And it doesn't really matter if you get there. That's not the point. The point is just trying to get there, and you'll fall somewhere else good and valuable to be at. It might not be the same place, but it's really not about whether or not you get to that place. Because ultimately, we have a plan and we have a way that we want things to go in all areas of life, with our career and with our romantic partners. Like we have, and that's good. We should make plans and have goals, but we don't know everything. We don't have the 3D macro vision of like the entire universe and all the energy that is out there and all the different ways that things can unfold for us. And I think when we don't get the things that we want, like in my case, being a PGA Tour player and different romantic partners and stuff like that in the past, I think we're being saved from the things that weren't actually meant for us. It's good that we set our sights on them and tried to get there, and then we're rewarded for the effort of trying to get there, and something better falls into our lap. And it seems random and coincidental, but it's not. There are no coincidences. I think everything works out exactly how it's supposed to. And that's something I'm trying to work on, is being less upset when something doesn't go my way, something that I really think is best for me, that I want to have happen, and then it doesn't. It's like, no, that's how it's supposed to go. Like, that's not a reason to stop or quit or get sad. Like, something better is coming in its place. You don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. You're just seeing a tiny little bit of the road in front of you illuminated by the headlights, but the rest of the road is somebody else is watching that. Whether you're religious or not, this doesn't have to be a religious thing, but yeah, I really believe that, man. And then I think as I'm getting older and wiser, it's easier for me to embody that and really believe it.
Yeah, I realize with myself, some people in your life for a reason and some are just for a season. I mean, it's so powerful when you're chasing after your dreams, because your dreams won't chase you.
That's good stuff, man. Love it.
And Alex, all your information will be in the description down below. And I want to make sure that people know where to find you. Where can the people follow and support your work?
Perfect, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's just the main three social media platforms. Instagram is Alex Romo Golf, YouTube is Alex Romo Golf, and TikTok is Alex Romo. And that's where I'm communicating every day, putting out videos and answering comments and DMs and all that.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode. I know the listeners got a lot of great value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. That was a great podcast. You're a great host, very chill and good at just, asking a question and then listening to the answer. That's a good interviewer skill that not a lot of people have. So good job, man. You crushed it, and can't wait to hear the episode.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories and experiences. And to everyone listening, make sure you stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday. If you enjoyed this, make sure you follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time, everybody.
Peace.